Hey everyone, Alex coming at you with another video. Today is going to be basically another Ultraman Orb podcast, and let's begin. Now, I know it's been a really long time since I've done an Ultraman Orb podcast, but the thing is that whenever like an Ultraman Orb episode comes out, I want to do a podcast, but because it's like once you miss 1 week, there's no point in really doing it. But then I realized, I should just kind of talk about over the episodes as kind of like an overview of the series so far. So last night I actually watched a lot of the Ultraman Orb episodes, like episodes 18, 19, 20, and etc. in English subtitles so I could actually understand the plot and the character development. And honestly, I think Ultraman Orb is really on fire right now. One of my favorite things that Ultraman Orb is doing right now is that it's having a lot of Ultra versus Alien battles. But not also just that, if you think I don't like the Ultra versus Monster battles, I do like the Ultra versus Monster battles. One of my favorite episodes personally from the series was the Bemular episode with Alien Shapley. I really love this episode because it was just such a kind and touching episode, you know. So the VTL's team daughter, I mean the daughter of the VTL member, I can never think of his name. She basically comes to SSP and she doesn't really like her father, you know. She thought he was a hero and stuff like that. But she really thinks that he's just some sort of coward, and they actually spy on him, and he starts talking to like a bunch of women and stuff like that. But you see at the end of the episode about how this guy, he's like 50 years old or 40 or something like that, but he's still able to kick a lot of alien butt, and it's really like a really redeeming episode for just this character. It was a really nice story arc for him and his daughter. It's just so touching. I'm not sure if it's like anyone's really like personal favorite episode, but I really like the kind of episodes that kind of make you smile in the end. And this episode definitely made me smile at the end because it was just so redeeming for the series to have this kind of character development and moment. And one of my other favorite episodes was the Gurenki episode. The plot wasn't really that strong with this one. It was a very straightforward plot, but my goodness, the battle dynamics were great. Usually, whenever an Ultraman gets like a sword, the sword is usually like the FU weapon to the monster because the monster can't do anything. But since Gurenki has a katana, it adds up for a lot of good like sword to sword action. You get to really just see the kind of craftsman skills and stuff like that, and it was just a really epic fight. Probably one of my favorite personal fights from Ultraman Orb. And then I also really loved episode 20, which featured Alien Metron Tarud. Now, one of the few things that I felt like complaining about on my Ultraman Orb podcast about 3 weeks or a month ago was that Alien Mephiles, I wish we got to see more of Alien Mephiles, aka Don Nostra. I wish he got to, fight Orb at least one time and then get killed, because then I could at least understand that. Because Power Rangers sometimes does that, where they have the monster fight the Power Rangers, he gets defeated, and he comes back to, like, the main boss or the villain, and he gets killed off because, he failed to kill them. I would have rather seen that instead of Don Nostra gets killed, because Alien Mephiles is probably one of my top 5 favorite aliens. But surprisingly, Alien Metron was one of the bigger villains close to the end of the series, and that was great because usually you would have expected a monster like, I don't know, like Pandan, or because Pandan was earlier on in the series and then he formed to make Pandan, but you would have expected like Grand King or something like that to be like the close to final villain just because of how powerful Grand King is. But surprisingly, they put him into episode 2, and they put Alien Metron Tarud into like episode 20, and my god, I loved Metron. Metron was like the redemption. I had never seen Metron so epic since Ultra 7 and Ultraman Jack. Maybe, I mean, not Ultraman Jack, Ultraman Ace, I believe. Yeah, but the thing is that in the earlier past series before Orb, like Ultraman Max, Metron had really just been a kind of character that would appear. He's considered a threat to like the main hero, but he's not really there as a malevolent creature. He's just kind of doing his own thing. I mean, he may be causing trouble and might want to do some harm, but down in the heart, he wasn't really an evil character in some of the earlier series. And usually at the end of the episode, he just goes back home in a spaceship. But not this episode. This episode pit Metron, and despite Metron really not really being as powerful as he as Ultraman Orb, because Ultraman Orb in this episode was really powerful. He used the Zero and Jack form instead of just Specium Zaparian, and he also used the Orb Origin form, which was still relatively new at the time. So when you really just got that, Metron, he really put up an epic fight against, Ultraman Orb. It was just nice to see these two kind of compete against each other. Of course, Orb really kind of had the upper hand for most of the battle, but it was choreographed in such a way that it looked so epic. I mean, Metron was really like, evil, I mean, I wouldn't say he was evil because morally he's kind of wants the redemption kind of character. He wants to redeem Don Nostra, get revenge and stuff like that on Juggler! Sorry, I had to do that Orb impression because if you remember back in like episode 8 when Juggler exploded Ultraman Orb was like Juggler or however whatever he sounded like. But anyway, I thought the Alien Metron Tyrud episode was really great because they brought back an alien from the Showa era. And this is what I always complain to Methyl Kaiju. When you look at Ultraman Zero and Ultraman Ginga, they take these classic monsters that you saw back in the past, like Birdon or, like Red King and stuff like that. All these monsters and stuff like that in the categories that in the Showa era that you thought were really powerful when you first watched, I don't know, like Ultraman Ultra 7 or Ultraman Ace or Ultraman Tower. You see these monsters get put into like the Zero movies or the Ginga and Mebius storyline, and you kind of see how weak they can be. But I really liked, especially Ultraman X. Ultraman X really just knocked out. One of the monsters that I thought got worse was Birdon because he was killed relatively early. But I thought Zerab was the biggest disappointment because I have always loved Zerab because Zerab was I watched him in the original series and I instantly fell in love with this alien. I mean, talking about Alien, Zerab, I do have some news on him relating to Ultraman Orb for the future, which I will be getting to in the next video. But the thing is that I'm really glad that they made Metron powerful because this was not a disappointment. When I saw Metron, I was like, man, maybe Metron might just be another joke in the series as they have already done so many times with this character. But they took Metron, I wouldn't like to say back to its roots because this wasn't the same Metron. This Metron had, the missile launchers and he didn't use the cigarette scheme, but he was still fighting toe-to-toe with Ultraman, and that was just so wonderful to see Metron, a classic Showa alien, get that kind of comeback, when before he used to be kind of more of a joke in the storyline, where he would always appear in the sunset and make random jokes and jump all around and then leave home on some random spaceship. That's what I thought was probably one of the biggest redeeming factors for an Ultra character since Games from Ultraman X, because God knows how long we've seen him. Well, actually, it wasn't too long. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was really just great what they did with Alien Metron Tyrud. It was really great that they had him basically hunt after our main villain, because show that even though these monsters alien, they're from the Showa era, they're still really prominent in the Ultraman series. They're still big, massive threats. Like when you look at some of these aliens and monsters nowadays, originally you were like, okay, these monsters are going to get killed because, it's a new Ultraman, so the new Ultraman have to show off their abilities and powers by defeating the monsters that we thought were so powerful, making them look weak and making the Ultramen look like gods compared to them. But they did not do that with Alien Metron Tyrud. Same thing with Black King. Black King put up a really major fight against Orb earlier on in the series too. So I'm glad that although Ultraman Orb originally it started out with having monsters like King Pandan and Grand King get killed off in the earlier episodes, I'm glad they did make some monsters like Black King and Alien Metron Tyrud look like really powerful monsters to our hero, and I think that was a really great and excellent decision. However, one complaint that I really do have about Ultraman Orb is that Katana Zoa never made an appearance. I would have loved to have seen Katana Zoa, or Katana Thor as they call him now, but to see Katana Zoa would be like a dream come true. But anyway, yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else to say. I'm glad that they made Bemular pretty strong. I mean, it took Bemular, the Orb origin form, to beat him. I mean, that's really great, and, what an incredible feat. I mean, Bemular went from being the first monster in the Ultraman series to being pretty much one character that gets killed at the very beginning of Mega Monster Ultra Galaxy Legend to being a kind of semi-final boss monster for our main hero and having to require his most powerful form to beat him. I mean, that's just really great. So far, I mean, I watched like the 2-part episodes with Galactron. I rewatched them and stuff like that. along with the Zapandan episodes, and I can really understand this because instead of it being like a two-part episode, it's more like a kind of saga or kind of storyline where Guy has to truly discover the Orb origin form, and it really makes me appreciate the two-parters more in the Orb series now that I like kind of just think about it from Super Riot Productions' perspective and how they were trying to execute things. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have just enjoyed me rambling on, this was just basically me talking about my current thoughts on the Ultraman Orb series as of right now. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Check out my other Ultraman Orb podcast or any other video I do like to see. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.